The night was as thick as ink, covering the forgotten corner on the edge of the city. Howard drove his old off-road vehicle, the engine making a low roar, and the lights cutting through the darkness ahead. In the passenger seat, Cheney held his cell phone tightly, his slightly nervous face reflected on the screen. Wang Fang sat in the back seat, clasping her backpack straps with both hands and staring at the passing street lights outside the window. "Howard, are you sure this is not a bad idea?" Cheney finally couldn't help but speak, with a hint of ridicule in his voice. "The invitation posted by that guy Xiao Qi on the internet looks like the beginning of an urban legend. Night visit to an abandoned amusement park? It sounds like the ghost stories in those old Hong Kong movies." Howard smiled without taking his eyes off the steering wheel. "Come on, Cheney, don't you always say that science can explain everything? This time, treat it as a field trip. Think about it, that place has been closed for almost 20 years. It is said that the Ferris wheel inside is still hung with rusty light bulbs, waiting for us to verify whether there are really ghosts spinning around." Wang Fang in the back seat sighed softly. "I still feel something is wrong. Howard, you know I'm timid, but since you two are determined to go, I'll follow you. At least I can help take pictures. If something strange happens, evidence is better than empty talk." Her voice was soft, with a hint of the gentleness of a Jiangnan girl, but Howard could hear the hesitation in it. The two of them have been dating for 2 years, and Wang Fang's intuition is always frighteningly accurate. Last time they went hiking, she avoided a sudden rainstorm based on her senses. The car turned onto a gravel road, and the iron fence in the distance was vaguely visible in the moonlight. Xiaoqi was already waiting there. He was a local old man in his early 50s with gray hair and a faded jacket. He was leaning against the fence and smoking. When he saw the car lights, he waved his hand, with a half-smiling expression on his face that made it difficult to guess what he was thinking. "Here you are. Howard, Cheney, and this beauty." Xiao Qi threw away his cigarette and came up to say hello. His voice was hoarse, like one of those old-school storytellers. "I thought you were going to run away. This place is no joke. Back then it was called Happy Paradise and it was the most popular amusement park in the city. Come on in, I'll take you for a spin." Howard parked the car and the four of them pushed open the rusty iron door. The door shaft made a harsh creaking sound, as if whispering some ominous secret. In the park, dilapidated facilities stand in the night wind, the track of the roller coaster twists into a weird arc, as if it will collapse at any time, the horses of the carousel are covered with dust, and their eyes reflect the moonlight, making them look alive. The air was filled with the smell of rust and mildew, mixed with a faint smell of damp earth, which sent chills down one's spine. "Uncle Xiaoqi, why is this place ruined?" Howard asked as he walked, his steps brisk, like an excited explorer. He has always been like this, passionate about the unknown. He has loved dismantling old radios at home since he was a child. Now that he is an engineer, he uses curiosity as fuel. Xiaoqi nodded and led them to the center of the park. His eyes flickered in the darkness, seeming to linger for a few seconds longer as they scanned the slanted lampposts. "Hey, it's a long story. 20 years ago, there was a grand opening ceremony here, and it was crowded with people. But in the middle of the night, something happened to the old tunnel system in the park. It was a thing that connected the underground maze, and was originally intended to allow tourists to experience an adventure trip. Suddenly, all the lights went out, and screams were heard. Officially, it was a short circuit in the wires, and more than a dozen people died. But the locals didn't believe it." Cheney pushed up his glasses, his tone full of doubt. "Short circuit? It sounds quite scientific. Uncle Xiaoqi, you don't want to tell us that it's a ghost, do you? We're not here to listen to ghost stories." Xiaoqi laughed, but the laughter echoed particularly strangely in the empty park. "Science? Boy, you young people always like to say that. But I have seen with my own eyes that after those facilities are broken down, they will occasionally move on their own. Last year I came to pick up some old iron and heard the Ferris wheel turning half a circle, but the wind was not blowing that hard." He paused and glanced at Wang Fang. "Girl, what do you think? You are timid, But you are intuitive, right? Wang Fang shrank her neck and hugged her arms tightly. I feel uncomfortable here. When I entered the door just now, I seemed to hear something coming from underground. Like a whisper. Her words suddenly made the air thicken. Howard patted her shoulder and tried to comfort her, but there was something strange in his heart. The wind blew, and the swing frame in the distance swayed slightly, making a clanking sound of metal collision. It didn't sound like the sound of wind, but more like someone laughing. As they walked on, Xiaozi pointed to a row of dilapidated stalls. This place used to sell marshmallows and popcorn, but now? It's a world of mice. Rumor has it that after the accident, someone tried to reopen the garden, but once they entered the underground tunnel, they never came out. It is said that there is something inside, something ancient, crawling out of the soil. His voice was lowered, as if sharing a forbidden secret, and an imperceptible shadow flashed in his eyes. Howard noticed that the look in his eyes was not only the excitement of telling a story, but also something hidden. Wow, that sounds super exciting. Howard said excitedly, speeding up and walking around a tilted bumper car. The paint on the body of the car peeled off, revealing the iron frame inside, which looked like dry bones. Cheney, don't you think this place has a retro charm? Think of those old movies, like Jaws. Adventures are always full of surprises. Cheney shook his head and used his mobile phone flashlight to illuminate the road as he walked. Charming? Howard, you are filled with adventure novels. I admit that the scenery is nice, but safety comes first. Uncle Xiao-Qi, where's the entrance to the tunnel? We are not here to dig for treasures. Wang Fang suddenly stopped and pulled Howard's sleeve. Wait, listen. The sound is coming again. Everyone fell silent, and sure enough, from behind the bushes at the edge of the park, there was a small sound, not wind, not an animal, like the scraping sound of metal rubbing against the ground, mixed with vague murmurs. Xiao-Qi's expression changed slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. Maybe it's a wildcat. Come this way, I'll take you to the edge. There's an old entrance there, which was originally an employee passage. They walked around a bunch of crumbling fences and came to the most remote corner of the park. The moonlight shines on the ground, illuminating an iron cover hidden under the vines. Howard squatted down and pulled away the weeds, revealing an entrance that looked like a rusty manhole cover, with vague marks engraved around it that looked like ancient runes. Is this the entrance to the tunnel? Oh my god, it looks so ancient. Uncle Xiao-Qi, is the labyrinth you mentioned going down from here? Xiao-Qi nodded, his eyes looking even deeper in the darkness. Yes, just go down there. The designer said that it was inspired by the underground world like the Dunhuang grottos, but who knows if it really encountered something unclean. People who have been in it say that the air inside can make people hallucinate, like returning to the nightmares of their childhood. Cheney frowned and took a closer look. Hallucination? It could be methane gas or something. Howard, don't be impulsive. Let's take a photo first and record it. But Howard's eyes were already bright with excitement. Come on, friends. This is a rare opportunity. Think about it, we can witness those rumors with our own eyes. Wang Fang, what do you think? Wang Fang bit her lip and hesitated for a moment. I have a bad feeling. But if you want to go, I will accompany you. At least, don't go down alone. Her intuition was like a thin thread, tugging at Howard's enthusiasm, making him a little more cautious. Xiao-Qi smiled and handed over a small flashlight. Good boys, now that you're here, don't give up halfway. I'll wait for you outside, but remember, the road inside is complicated, don't get separated. There was something hidden in his words, Howard could feel it, but his curiosity had overtaken everything. Cheney sighed and patted Howard on the back. Okay, explorer leader. But if something strange happens, we will withdraw immediately. Scientists don't believe in ghosts and gods. Howard nodded vigorously and held the handle of the iron cover tightly. With a dull sound, the cover was lifted, and a stream of cold wind poured out from the black hole-like entrance, mixed with the smell of earth and staleness. The darkness inside was bottomless, and the faint sound of water dripping echoed. They exchanged glances. Howard took the lead, followed by Chen and Wang Fang. Xiao Qi stood at the back, with the corners of his mouth raised slightly and his eyes following him like a shadow. They went down step by step, the stairs stretching out beneath their feet, the walls covered with cracks like open mouths. Excitement and uneasiness intertwined, and the air became increasingly muggy. Suddenly, a low roar came from the depths, like a heartbeat and the breathing of a beast. Wang Fang held Howard's arm tightly and whispered, "Howard, do we really want to continue?" Howard paused for a moment. The darkness under the stairs was like an invisible net, wrapping their footsteps. He turned to look at Wang Fang, his eyes flashing with concern in the flashlight light. "Fang, we've already come in. It's too late to regret. Don't worry, I'm by your side," he said softly, with the usual firmness in his voice, just like when he was a child. When his parents took him to the temple fair, he held his brother's hand and broke into the crowd. Wang Fang nodded and smiled reluctantly, but her fingers were still tightly clasped on his arm. Xiao Qi behind him suddenly coughed and footsteps sounded. "Hey, you young people are walking too fast. I can't let you go down alone. If you get lost, I will have to call the police." He squeezed in, his tone was half joking and half serious. He had an old-fashioned flashlight in his hand, and the light swayed to illuminate the cracks in the wall. Howard glanced at him and thought, this old man just said he would wait outside, and now he's following him? But he didn't ask any more questions, his excitement outweighing his doubts. "Okay, Uncle Xiao Qi, let's explore together." At the end of the stairs is a narrow tunnel. The walls are made of old bricks and stones. Water seeps from the gaps, and the ticking sound echoes between footsteps. The air suddenly became moist and sticky, like entering an underground greenhouse, mixed with the smell of decaying wood and a faint hint of rust. Howard wrinkled his nose and took a deep breath, feeling that his lungs were wet. "This smells like the basement of my grandpa's old house, but more stuffy. Uncle Xiao Qi, how is the construction of this tunnel? It looks like a good structure." Xiao Qi walked in the front, his shoulders slightly hunched, and the light lengthened his shadow. "Structure? Boy, you're an engineer, show me." He stopped and pointed to the vaulted ceiling on the wall. This place was built to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. The designer took some inspiration from the Mogao grottos in Dunhuang and wanted to create an underground adventure park. There was a maze-like road with a small train track inside, where tourists could sit for a ride and listen to the tour guides talk about ancient times. The result? The accident ruined everything. Chinny followed Howard, and the flashlight of his mobile phone swept across the ground, illuminating the pitted remains of the railway tracks. Accident? Uncle Xiao Qi, you just mentioned it above, a short circuit in the wire? It sounds pretty simple. His voice was filled with the usual suspicion, like whenever they discussed UFOs, they always wanted to pop the balloon first. Xiao Qi shook his head and lowered his voice, echoing in the tunnel like a ghostly whisper. "Short circuit? That's what the official said. But I was working as a security guard in the park at the time and saw it with my own eyes. After the midnight celebration, the underground lights went dark and screams came from here. A dozen tourists and 2 employees disappeared completely. Later, a small section was dug up and found some things, bone fragments, mixed with strange rune stones. Rumor has it that there is an ancient labyrinth underneath, not built by humans, but grown from the soil. Those things will awaken, dirty things." He paused and avoided Wang Fang's gaze. Howard noticed that the hesitation was like hiding a key, opening a door that shouldn't be touched. "Runestone? It sounds like a fantasy novel." Howard squatted down and touched the brick wall beside the railway track with his fingers, and he could see the details clearly under the light. From an engineering point of view, this vault is a Roman-style design and has good load-bearing capacity, but the water seepage is too serious. Looking at these cracks, it seems that they have not been repaired for 20 years, and the pressure is uneven. If it rains again, it may collapse. "Uncle Xiao Qi, is the labyrinth you are talking about accessible by this track?" Xiao-Qi hummed and continued to move forward. Yes, the small train tracks go straight to the heart of the city. After the accident, the park closed the door, but locals still say that there is something moving in the maze. It's not a ghost, it's something older. Like those old Hong Kong legends about the land grandfather, who guards the underground treasures, but bites people when he gets angry. His words were mixed with dialect, making the story sound more down-to-earth, like a street uncle telling the unofficial history of a tea house. Suddenly, a strange echo floated from the front, not water droplets, but a low buzzing sound, like a distant honeycomb, and like the gentle friction of metal. Cheney immediately raised his phone and turned on the recording function. This sound may be the echo effect. The shape of the tunnel is like a trumpet, which reflects sound waves. Or the flow of underground water causes the air to vibrate. Howren, don't make blind guesses. This can be explained scientifically. Howren stood up, patted him on the shoulder, and said with a smile, "Scientist, you are always so calm. But it sounds a bit like the electric train you played with when you were a child. It is still spinning after it breaks down." His bravery was like a torch, illuminating Cheney's doubts and letting the team move forward. Cheney rolled his eyes. "Your metaphor is too crude. But okay, I admit, it's a bit weird. Uncle Xiao-Qi, have you heard this?" Xiao-Qi's steps slowed down for a moment, and his face looked pale under the light. "I heard it, a few times. But ignore it and move forward." The hesitation came again, as if he was hiding some unspoken secret. Wang Fang suddenly pulled Howren's sleeve and his nose twitched. "Howren, do you feel it? The airflow is not right. It was sultry just now, but now there is a cool breeze blowing from the front. It's like someone is pulling me forward." Her intuition was always like this, as sharp as a cat. As early as their first date, she had already guessed what Howren wanted to give her as a birthday gift. Howren nodded and became alert. "Cool breeze? The tunnel shouldn't have cross-ventilation. Unless there is another exit." He quickened his pace, and Cheney came closer. "It may be a natural crack. Fang, don't scare yourself." But as soon as he finished speaking, a vague laughter floated over a child's giggle, intermittently, like leaking from an old tape. It's not a real voice, but a buzzing in the head, making it hard to tell whether it's an hallucination or an echo. Wang Fang shuddered. "What is that? A child's smile?" "Howren, I came to this garden when I was a child, and I remember there was a carousel, and the laughter was always like this. But it's impossible, it has been useless for 20 years. Her voice trembled, and her eyes looked around. Howren's heart tightened, and he recalled the fragments of his childhood. His parents brought him to play, and when the wooden horse spun in circles, he always felt that there were eyes watching him. But he shook his head and pushed away the thought. Maybe the wind blows through the cave and the sound waves are disordered. "Cheney, what do you think?" Cheney frowned and scanned the surroundings. "Well, it's an acoustic phenomenon. The resonance in the tunnel can simulate the human voice. Don't panic, let's continue." But his tone was not so sure, and his rationality was like a shield, starting to have cracks. Xiao-Qi suddenly stopped, turned around and whispered, "This laughter. I have heard it. After the accident, some people said it was the souls of the missing children. But I tell you, don't think too much about it, just move forward." A trace of panic flashed in his eyes, as if he had been stabbed in a sore spot. Howren thought to himself, this old man must know more. The tunnel widened and the tracks became complete, flanked by rusty supports like the ribs of a giant beast. The air became more rotten, and Howren smelled a musty sweetness, like spoiled marshmallows. He was about to say something when suddenly the ground shook. Boom. The remains of an old train on the track in front suddenly made the creaking sound of gears, lights flashed, and the wheels began to rotate slowly. It's not wind, it's not an illusion, it's starting on its own. The carriages on the track swayed forward, faster and faster, the headlights turned on, and the dazzling yellow light swept across them. "What the hell?" Cheney yelled, taking a step back and almost dropping his phone. "This is impossible. There is no power. Run. It's out of control." Howard grabbed Wang Fang, turned around and rushed back. Xiao Qi's face turned pale and he murmured, "I told you before, there is something here." Their footsteps made random noises in the tunnel, and the roar of the rails caught up with them, like the breathing of wild animals. The children's laughter became clearer, mixed in with the sound of wheels rubbing, and echoed endlessly. Wang Fang was panting, "Howard, ahead. The airflow has become stronger, it's dangerous." Her intuition saved them. Howard yanked everyone into a side road to avoid the car that was rushing straight onto the track. The thing passed by and hit the wall, sparks flying, and the laughter stopped abruptly. They stopped panting, their backs against the wet wall. Howard's heartbeat was like a drum, excitement and fear were intertwined. This was the first time that he felt the horror of childhood games in reality. "What the hell, why is the train moving? Uncle Xiao Qi, do you know about this?" Xiao Qi wiped his sweat and looked away. I've been here a few times. Sometimes it turns around by itself." "Don't ask, we have to go." His hesitation made Chinny narrow his eyes. "Uncle, what are you hiding? This cannot be explained by science." Howard patted Chinny. "Don't make any noise yet. Look, there is a forked road ahead. It's dark on the left, and there's a little light on the right." The wind roared on the left road, like the abyss breathing in. There was a faint sound of water on the right road, moist but steady. Wang Fang pointed to the left. "I feel something is wrong on the left. The cool breeze is too strong, as if it is pulling people down." Chinny shook his head, "But the right side sounds like there is water and is dangerous. Scientifically speaking, the left side may be the main road, leading directly to the exit." Howard hesitated, his brave impulse and Wang Fang's intuition pulling him. Xiao Qi suddenly interrupted, his voice urgent, "Go to the right, I said so." His insistence made the air tighten, everyone exchanged glances, and a small conflict broke out. Howard stared at Xiao Qi's elongated face under the flashlight. The moist smell in the air was like an invisible rope, making everyone unable to breathe. There was a faint sound of water from the branch road on the right, like a distant stream whispering. On the left, it was deathly quiet, and the wind howled like it was mocking their hesitation. "Uncle Xiao Qi, you said we should go to the right? Why? Aren't we on an adventure? The left side sounds more like the main road." Howard's voice was steady. Although the excitement in his heart was mixed with the lingering fear of the train going out of control just now, he forced himself to take the lead, as he did when he played hide-and-seek with his younger brother, without panic or panic. Xiao Qi's eyes were narrowed and his shoulders were slightly raised. "Boy, I've been living in this garden for half my life. The sound of water on the right is alive and leads to the old control room. You won't get lost. On the left? That wind is a trap." There were security guards who went down but didn't come up. There was a dialect roll in his words, like the accent of an old uncle on the streets of Taipei when telling gossip. It was half truth and half false, making people confused. Chinny pushed up his glasses, and the light shone on his face. "Uncle, your words sound like a ghost story. Scientifically speaking, the sound of water indicates that there is a drainage system, and the right side is safer. But Howard, you decide, we will listen to you." Wang Fang's hand was still holding Howard's arm, and her nails were gently embedded in the fabric. "Howard, I feel that something is wrong on the left side, as if something is waiting for us. But Uncle Xiao Qi is right. The right side sounds like, at least there is a way." Her voice was soft and trembling, but her eyes shone with trust, which made Howard's heart warm. He took a deep breath of moist air and nodded. "Okay, go to the right. But everyone, follow closely and don't be left alone. Chinny, you record. Fang, you help look at the road. Uncle Xiao Qi, you take the lead." At this moment, he felt like an engineer directing at a construction site. Being brave does not mean not being afraid, but suppressing fear and rushing forward. The signs of growth quietly emerged from this decision. They turned into the right lane, their footsteps echoing on the slippery stone slabs. The sound of water is getting closer, like an underground river singing ancient songs. The tunnel walls became rough, and moss grew between the bricks and stones. When the light swept across, it reflected vague carvings, not random cracks, but neat lines, like fragments of Chinese characters or symbols on Dunhuang murals. Howard stopped and touched it close. "What is this?" "Uncle Xiao-Qi, look at these runes. The lines are too regular and are not naturally weathered. From an engineering point of view, they seem to have been carved deliberately and must have been hundreds of years old." His fingers slid along a curved arc, and he felt a chill running through his heart. Xiao-Qi came closer, breathing heavily, and the light cast shadows on his face, making him look like a mysterious elder in an old movie. "Rune? Boy, you have really sharp eyes. This is not a modern thing, it is something from our ancestors. When we were building the garden, these walls were dug. The foreman said they were the remains of an underground labyrinth, which had been buried since the Qin and Han dynasties. Rumor has it that this is a record of a lost ritual, a trick to summon the earth god, like Taiwan's Mazu, but more eerie. Light candles and recite incantations to wake them up. The things guarded below bring good luck. But if it is wrong, it will drag people into the illusion, and they will never come out." He paused, and his voice was as low as telling a bedtime story. "When I was a child, I heard from my grandfather that there was a group of ancient tombs under the garden, and the runes were sealing spells. On the day of the accident, someone secretly lit the wax in the middle of the night, and as a result, the missing tourists disappeared with the runes." Howard's heart skipped a beat, and vague images of his childhood flashed through his mind. His parents took him to play in the garden, and that night he sneaked into the carousel and saw an old man lighting candles by the wall and mumbling to himself. When the laughter rang out, he ran away in fright, but the rune-like shadow remained imprinted in his dream. "Uncle Xiao-Qi, the ceremony you mentioned. I seem to remember something. I came here when I was a child, and there were similar carvings on the wall. Is it not a dream, is it real?" There was a trace of uncertainty in his voice. Under the brave appearance, fear climbed up like a vine. Wang Fan came closer, her eyes widened. "Howard, do you remember? That laughter, the child's laughter just now, is the same as what I heard when I was a child. It was like a Trojan horse spinning, but what came out was not happiness, but emptiness." Chenny shook his head, trying to regain his rationality. "Don't scare yourself. These runes may be remnants of ancient buildings, inspired by Dunhuang. Uncle Xiao-Qi, your grandfather's story sounds like folklore, but scientifically speaking, it is a weathering pattern. Howard, keep walking." But his tone was not so strong, and the light of his mobile phone trembled, as if he was shaking with confidence. Xiao-Qi suddenly turned around, a trace of guilt flashing in his eyes. I didn't mean it. When I was working as a security guard after the accident, I saw a ritual with my own eyes. I wasn't the one who lit the wax, but the director did it here in the middle of the night to seek wealth. But something woke up, and tentacle-like shadows came out of the cracks and dragged people away. I ran away without calling the police because I was afraid of implicating my family." His confession was like a stone thrown into the water, causing ripples and making the air in the team tighten. Howard patted him on the shoulder. "Uncle, why are you talking about this now? We have to go out together. You know, we believe you." The leader's firmness made Xiao-Qi nod and his eyes became moist. As they continued forward, the sound of water turned to gurgling, and the opening of the tunnel widened, revealing a rusty iron door with more runes carved on it, like eyes staring at it. When Howard pushed the door open, he swept in with his flashlight and saw an abandoned control room. The floor was tangled with wires, like a snake's nest. In the middle was an old-fashioned console with dust as thick as a blanket. The musty smell in the air became stronger, mixed with the smell of electrical burnt. "This place looks like the hub of a train. Look at these switches, they were used to control the train back then." Howard murmured, getting excited again, but Xiao-Qi held him back. "Don't touch it. The runes are the densest here, the heart of the ritual." Before he finished speaking, the wall trembled, the crack expanded, and something black protruded from it, like a living shadow, twisting like tentacles, with a sucker-like mucus at the end, making a wet inhaling sound. Dark monster. It was not an entity, but tentacles made of smoke, crawling along the runes as fast as a whip. What the hell? Chinny yelled, retreating and bumping into the console. His phone fell to the ground and the lights shook wildly. Run! That's from the maze. Xiao-Qi shouted, the panic in his voice like a torn scar. He turned around and rushed. Howard pulled up Wang Fang. Fang, hold on to me. Chinny, hurry up. The tentacles brushed against Howard's arms, and the coldness was like a knife. Childhood hallucinations flashed in his mind, a wooden horse spinning in circles, tentacles pulling him down from the ground. He gritted his teeth and led everyone deeper into the control room. Don't panic, find the exit. Uncle Xiao-Qi, where's the door? The terror of the chase came like a tidal wave, tentacles slithering along the walls, hissing like evil spirits whispering. The tunnel was narrow, the footsteps were chaotic, the water splashed, Howard's heart was pounding, and fear made his chest tight, but he forced himself to think about engineering logic. Tentacles are afraid of light. Chinny, your lamp. Chinny gasped and picked up the phone and shined it behind him. Howard, this is impossible. Is it an illusion? No, it's moving. The tentacles approached, the shadows swallowed up the light, making the air thick, and the psychological pressure was like a mountain. Every step was like stepping on the edge of a nightmare. They rushed into the control room, the iron door was ajar, and their tentacles followed through the cracks. The indoor lights suddenly flickered out of control, not because they touched them, but because the rooms lit up, and the red light pulsed like a heartbeat. Hallucinations struck, and Chingy's eyes widened. Howard. Look, there are faces on the wall. Those missing children, they are laughing and pulling me. He waved his hand to punch the air, his rationality collapsed, and the scientist turned into a frightened bird. Howard pulled him. Chinny, that's a lie. Concentrate and help me close the door. But hallucinations also seeped into his mind, and childhood memories were distorted. His parents' faces turned into tentacles, dragging him into the darkness. He shook his head and said firmly, No, I'm not afraid. Let's go out together. Wang Fang suddenly screamed, Howard. Switch. The red handle over there can lock the door. Her intuition was like lightning, piercing the chaos. The tentacles have wrapped around the door frame, and the slime is dripping, making a sizzling and corroding sound. Howard rushed over, smashed the red handle, the gears clicked, the door slammed shut, the tentacles were clamped, and he let out a shrill roar. The shadow retreated and turned into smoke and slipped through the cracks. The lights stopped flickering, and the room fell into dead silence, except for their breathing. Chinny sat on the ground, his face turned pale. What did I just see? Those faces, weren't they real? Howard helped him up, his voice was as steady as a rock. No, brother. We blocked it. But Uncle Xiao-Qi, the ceremony you mentioned, we have to reversal. Xiao-Qi leaned against the wall and murmured, Reversal? Boy, you don't know, I didn't stop the principal back then, and now, the thing is awake. There were more unsaid fragments hidden in the depths of his eyes, like an old dream waking up, filling the air with suspense. Wang Fang hugged Howard and said tremblingly, Howard, you were so brave just now. Without you, we couldn't get out. Howard smiled, although his arm was still aching. It's about the team. Look, there is a map in this control room. We have to find candles and try the reversal that Uncle Xiao-Qi said. But outside the door, the buzzing started again, as low as distant thunder, indicating a bigger storm. Howard leaned against the closed iron door, his chest still heaving violently. The buzzing sound behind the door panel was like muffled thunder, mixed with scratching noises from time to time, which sent chills down the spine. He turned to look at everyone. Chinny was squatting on the ground to pick up his cell phone, his face as white as a layer of powder. Wang Fang was sitting with his knees crossed, his eyes were red, but his hand was not loosened. Xiao-Qi was staring at the console, breathing as heavily as a bellows. Is everyone okay? Are your arms okay, Fang? Howard spoke first, keeping his voice as steady as possible, although the coolness of the tentacles still traveled on the skin, like ghost hands scratching. Wang Fang nodded and forced a smile. It's okay, but my heart is beating like a drum. Howard, when you smashed the red handle just now, I was really afraid that it wouldn't be able to hold it. She rubbed her arms and glanced at the room. This place is a mess. We have to find something out quickly. Uncle Shao-Chi, the reverse of what you said. Where's the candle? Shao-Chi wiped the sweat from his forehead and moved to the console. The dust hit his face and he coughed twice. Candles? Boys, this is no joke. The director of the garden had a diary in the drawer of this desk, full of details of the ceremony. Come, help me look through it. He opened a rusty drawer, which contained a pile of yellow paper books with moldy corners, like old newspapers on old Taipei bookstalls. Chen-Yi leaned over, put on his gloves, he always carried these gadgets, and opened a book. The light shone on the yellow pages, and the handwriting was crooked like ghost drawings. This is handwritten, and the date is 30 years ago. Listen, light the wax tonight to call the earth god, and pray for a prosperous garden and wealth. The runes light up, the shadows come from the ground, and the tourists laugh endlessly. The earth god? This sounds like a trick at a temple fair, but... Chen-Yi's voice was stuck, and his rationality was tugging at him, but he continued to read. It says at the end, reverse the candle, recite the sealing spell, and you can send the shadow back to the maze. One wrong step, and the illusion will swallow you. Scientifically, this is a psychological suggestion, right? But those tentacles... Howard came closer and read the diary, his heart sinking. There are sketches of runes on the page, and scrawled notes next to them. When summoning, light 3 candles to represent heaven, earth, and people. When reversing, blow out the middle one and say return to your place of rest to seal it. Suddenly a picture flashed through his mind. As a child, he was hiding behind the merry-go-round and saw the old man lighting wax, his shadow crawling out from the crack in the wall, laughing like a wave of laughter. He blinked, and the hallucination intensified. The console in front of him twisted and turned into the scene of the accident. The lights of the amusement park flashed, and the children screamed and were pulled underground by tentacles. The face of one of the children was blurry but familiar, like his own reflection in the mirror. The little boy's eyes were wide open and he was too frightened to move. No. That's what I saw when I was a kid. He murmured, feeling a twinge of pain in his heart. It turned out to be not a dream. He had witnessed similar things, and his parents said it was a hallucination, but now, everything is connected. The sense of responsibility is like a fire. He is not just exploring for himself, he has to take everyone out to make up for the powerlessness of his childhood. Howard, what's wrong with you? You look so bad. Wang Fang pulled his sleeves, her voice full of worry. Chen-Yi closed the diary. Brother, this diary makes sense logically. The ritual is like an energy circuit, and the candle is a switch. Inject idea when summoning, and the reversal will break it off. But those runes glow, is it an electromagnetic effect? Or... He pushed up his glasses and tried to hold on with science, but there was a sudden loud knocking sound outside the door, like a giant fist hitting the door, and the iron plate shook and dust fell. The monster. It's back. Shao-Chi growled, the guilt on his face deepening. Damn it, I should have burned this diary back then. Now, it smells us and is coming. The knocking on the door was like a drumbeat, mixed with a low roar, making the air sticky. Howard took a deep breath. Don't panic. The diary says that a candle is needed to reverse the situation. We have to find it. But the door can't be blocked for long. Look, there are pipes on the wall, narrow, but you can climb out. He pointed to a ventilation pipe behind the console. The iron grill was rusty, and the inside was dark, like an open mouth. Chen-Yi frowned. Howard, this pipe is too narrow. According to engineering, it is an exhaust duct with a diameter of less than 1 meter. If it gets stuck. But the knock on the door became more urgent. Black mist seeped into the cracks of the door, and the hallucination struck again. A data chart appeared in front of Chen-Yi's eyes and twisted into tentacles, tugging at his leg. Let's go. Science can't stop this thing, he yelled, rationality giving way to survival. Wang Fang climbed in first. Her body was small and slippery. Howard, follow me. My intuition tells me that this pipe leads to the old maintenance room and is not a dead end. Her voice came from inside, trembling, but as firm as a beacon. Howard pushed Shao-Chi. Uncle, you go first, Chen-Yi is behind you. Use your mobile phone to take pictures. Xiao-Qi hesitated for a moment, then murmured as he climbed in, "Boy, you believe me to this point. I have to tell the truth. It wasn't the director who did the ceremony alone, I participated. For I helped him light the wax on the side. I didn't expect him to wake up so quickly. Among the missing tourists were my colleagues. I ran away and didn't save anyone." His confession echoed in the pipes, like a heavy burden being lifted, and the guilt in his voice turned into a bridge of trust. Howren's heart tightened, and an inner conflict emerged. Uncle Xiao-Qi had such a big secret, but now, he is a member of the team, and he must be forgiven and taken out. This sense of responsibility made him breathless, but it also made bravery more stable. "Uncle, don't think about the past. We are on the same boat now, let's help each other." He climbed into the pipe, his knees grinding against the iron sheet, making a creaking sound. Chinny followed. "Howren, your leader is like the boss of the construction site." I analyzed the logic of the diary. The ceremony is a closed loop, and the candle is reversed at the heart, probably the center of the maze. Has the knock on the door stopped? Listen, the sound of machinery. It was hot in the pipe, sweat flowed down the face, and hallucinations seeped in. Howren saw himself being chased by tentacles in his childhood, and woke up screaming, but the knocking sound of reality pulled him back to reality. They climbed about 10 meters, and the pipe suddenly tilted, and there was a corner in front of them. Wang Fang shouted from the front, "Be careful. Something is moving, like a mechanical arm." As soon as he finished speaking, a metal arm stretched out from the side wall, the out-of-control gears rotated, and the clamps opened like pliers and swept towards them. The smell of electric sparks rose in the air, like an automatic device in an old amusement park that had been awakened by a curse. "Get out of the way!" Howren shouted, pushing Xiao-Qi away. His arm brushed against the clamp, causing burning pain. Chinny analyzed, "This is the maintenance arm. The diary mentioned that the ritual will make the facility go out of control, like energy overflow. Logically, avoid the central axis, its rotation speed is limited." His words were like an anchor, stabilizing everyone. Wang Fang's intuition flashed, left to the left. Sweep the clamp to the right. She pulled Howren sideways, and the robotic arm whizzed past and hit the wall of the pipe, causing sparks to fly. Xiao-Qi gasped, "Girl, your intuition saved us. I just didn't listen to my heart and lit the wax." During the interaction, friendship was like a vine, and Chinny patted Howren on the shoulder. "Brother, thank you. Not only are you brave, you can also think of things to do." "No way." Howren gritted his teeth and endured the pain. "Team. Look, there is light ahead. That's the exit." But the mechanical arm turned again, and the second arm came down from above. The pipe trembled, and external threats and inner fears intertwined, making every inch of progress feel like a tug-of-war. Wang Fang took the lead in drilling out of the pipe and fell into a small maintenance room. Parts were scattered all over the floor. Old posters were hung on the wall, propaganda for the amusement park. The smiling children now looked sinister. Howren pulled out Xiao-Qi, and Chinny finally jumped down, followed by the buzzing sound of the mechanical arm. "Seal the exit." Howren grabbed the iron rod and blocked the mouth of the pipe. His arm hit him, making a metallic cry. While breathing, he looked at everyone. Wang Fang's eyes were shining, trusting like a warm current. Chinny nodded, rationality returned. Xiao-Qi lowered his head. "Boy, thank you for not abandoning me. This responsibility, I will shoulder it." Howren smiled, and the inner transformation was quiet. From a curious explorer to a leader who carries everyone, the arc of growth was straightened in the crisis. But outside the maintenance room door, the buzzing continued, mixed with laughter, like a child calling. The diary is still in Chinny's pocket. They have to find candles to reverse everything. But an even bigger shadow was coming from the depths of the tunnel. The air in the maintenance room was as stuffy as a steamer, and dust floated under the light of mobile phones. The laughter outside the door was getting closer and closer, like a group of children chasing each other in the alley, mixed with the harsh sound of metal friction. Howren wiped the sweat from his face, and the scratches on his arms were still aching. He turned to look at everyone. There's something wrong with this laughter. It's like the echo of the accident in the garden. Uncle Shao-Chi, is the core of the maze you mentioned around here? We can't just stand, we have to move. His voice became more steady, and his sense of responsibility was like a rope, tying up his scattered thoughts. Shao-Chi nodded, squinted his eyes, and glanced at a hidden iron door in the corner. Yes, boy. This is an old maintenance point. Behind the door is the main pipe, which leads directly to the heart. When the director built this maze, it was originally a treasure trove, but later it became a nest of curses. But the remains of candles are everywhere. The walls are all there, and if you touch them, they will stir things up. He opened the door, and the rusty hinges wailed, and behind it was a wider tunnel. The walls were embedded with scorch marks from black candles, like runes drawn by ghosts, and the air was filled with a faint smell of wax and oil, mixed with mold and rot. Wang Fang came closer, frowned and smelled it. This smells like Changmingla burned in the temple, but why is it so gloomy? Howren, let's go ahead. I feel that there are forks in this tunnel, so be careful. She grasped his hand tightly. Her palms were wet and cold, but the determination in her eyes made Howren feel warm in his heart. Chani took out his mobile phone from his pocket and scanned the wall. Scientifically speaking, the candle residue may be a phosphorescence reaction, an ancient chemical trick. But the runes mentioned in the diary. If this is an energy field, the hallucination is brainwave interference. Let's go, don't separate. He pushed up his glasses, trying to suppress the laughter with logic, but his steps were still a little weak. They filed in, the tunnel gradually sloping downwards, their footsteps echoing on the slippery ground. Laughter followed them, like a trailing shadow, sometimes far and sometimes near. Howren led the way, and the light beam of his mobile phone swayed, illuminating more wax marks on the wall, clusters of burnt candle ends, as if they had just been extinguished. Suddenly, a faint light shone from the remaining wax, and the air became distorted. Wang Fang whispered, "Look! The wax is moving." Before she finished speaking, the tunnel seemed to come alive, black mist poured out of the walls, and hallucinations came like a tide. Everyone's vision blurred, screams broke out, and the team was separated instantly. The mist was like an invisible wall, tearing them apart. Howren stumbled and fell alone into the darkness. The surroundings turned into a childhood amusement park. The merry-go-round turned fast and the lights flickered like will-o'-the-wisps. As a young boy, he hid behind the merry-go-round and saw his parents holding hands and laughing, but he was suddenly swallowed up by the black shadow. The shadow monster transformed into a ball of twisted tentacles, and his own childhood appearance appeared on his face, wide eyes, full of fear. Why don't you save us?" The monster whispered. The voice was like Howren's cry when he was a child, and its tentacles stretched out and wrapped around his legs. It was bone-chilling cold. Howren's heart beat like thunder, and a flash occurred in his heart. This is not true, but why is it so true? The feeling of powerlessness in his childhood came over him. He had witnessed an accident but could only hide away. His parents said it was a dream, but now, it is alive. The monster approached, and the laughter turned into a scream. "You will always be the coward, Howren. Adventure? Ha, you can't even save yourself." He backed away, hitting the wall with his back, questioning like a knife, "Is this realistic? Or is the curse playing tricks on your head?" But the sense of responsibility is burning. Wang Fang and the others are still waiting, and he cannot fail. "Fuck you!" Howren shouted, grabbed a piece of gravel on the ground and threw it at the monster. The stone penetrated the phantom, and the monster twisted, revealing the faces of his parents, pleading, "Son, why didn't you come earlier?" The pain was like fire, and he gritted his teeth. "I'm here. Now, I have to face it." Courage squeezed out from fear, he rushed forward, and had a short inner monologue. "No more running away, this is my past, I have to face it." He punched the monster's core, the illusion shattered, the black mist dispersed, and the tunnel reappeared, but he was panting and there were many scratches on his arms, as if they were real. At the same time, Chani was pulled into another fork in the road by the fog, and a data chart appeared in front of his eyes, twisting into tentacles wrapping around the instrument. "No, this is impossible." He murmured, his rationality on the verge of collapse, but a theory flashed in his mind. The hallucination is a garbled brain wave induced by low-frequency sound waves, like an amplified version of the electromagnetic interference of the type A MRT. He took a deep breath, groped for the wall, found a bump, and pressed it. There was a click, and the fork light turned on. Science saved me. He laughed at himself, followed the light, and heard Wang Fang's voice coming from not far away. When Wang Fang was alone, her intuition saved her. In the fog, she touched a loose wall brick, followed by a yellowed map filled with tunnel lines, marking the core wax room and the escape hatch, a secret passage leading to the base of the old Ferris wheel on the ground. Howren! This map is the key, she shouted, her voice coming out through the fog. Xiaoqi's path was forked next to him, and his guilt intensified. The hallucination reminded him of the scene when he lit wax, and the dark existence crawled out of the ground and swallowed up his colleagues. He murmured, I summoned it unintentionally. The director said it was a ritual to ask for money. I only lit the side wax, but I didn't expect it to wake up and turn into a monster. Those who disappeared were not accidents, they were caused by me. His confession echoed, and all the secrets were revealed, as if the last shackles were removed, and he became determined. He must help these young people atone for their sins. The fog gradually dissipated, and they reunited at the corner of the tunnel. Howren was the first to rush out, with a pale face but firm eyes. Everyone, are you okay? That hallucination is so real. Wang Fang threw herself into his arms. Howren, I found this. She unfolded the map, and the paper was as crisp as an old biscuit. Look, this line leads to the core, but there is a trap. The escape is under the Ferris wheel. We have to go around. Her intuition was like a lamp, illuminating the chaos. Howren hugged her tightly. Fang, thank you, you always give me a hand. But a conflict emerged. Chenyi gasped, brother, this map is logically consistent with the diary. But the hallucination. I have a theory. The candle residue releases chemical gases, mixes the electromagnetic field, and the brain waves are manipulated, like hypnosis. Crack it? Concentrate and deny it. Science says this is not supernatural, it is controllable. Xiaoqi lowered his head. Boys, I did it all. It was not unintentional, but greedy. The director promised dividends, and when I lit the wax, the shadow crawled out of the maze and swallowed people. I ran away and was unable to be saved. Later, the garden was abandoned, and I thought it was over. I'm sorry, but now it is targeting you. It's my fault. His words were like stones, cracking. Wang Fang frowned. Uncle, you told me earlier, we could have avoided it. But, why are we talking about this now? We have to unite. Howren patted Xiaoqi on the shoulder, and his heart changed. Questioning reality made him confused, but his courage to face the past was firm. Uncle, turn over the past. We know the way, and we believe in you. Chenyi, your theory sounds reliable. Try it, deny the illusion, let's go together. Dependence is like a web, weaving the team together, but conflicts are looming. Chenyi glared at Xiaoqi. Science doesn't believe in karma, but your secret almost killed us. They followed the map, and at the end of the tunnel was the core room, a circular cave. Candle remains were scattered on the central stone platform, and the surrounding walls were covered with runes and flickering lights. There was a lot of laughter, and suddenly, an old Ferris wheel model in the corner, a scaled-down version for maintenance, less than half a meter high, suddenly came to life. The gears spin wildly, the cockpit pops out like a claw, and the model rolls towards it, making a crazy buzz, like an out-of-control toy seeking revenge. What the hell? Howren shouted, pushing Wang Fang away. The model hit the stone platform, sparks flew out, and wires stretched out from the cockpit to wrap around Chenyi. This is energy overflow. Chenyi ducked and analyzed. The diary said that the ceremony was out of control and the facilities were all activated. Logically, cut off the power supply. Look, there are wires over there. He pointed at the wires in the corner, but the model accelerated, and the wires swept over Xiaoqi's legs, leaving bloody marks. Wang Fang's intuition flashed. Howren, hit the center of the cockpit. That's the core. She picked up the stone and threw it. Howard followed and smashed it with her fist. The model wailed and stopped spinning, but the aftermath made all the remaining candles light up, and more hallucinations came. The core room was twisted into a childhood accident scene, and the monster's shadow reappeared, chasing them. Facing the monster-shaped figures of his parents, Howard shouted, "I'm looking directly at you. Don't run away anymore." He rushed into the shadow, his courage burst out, and his illusion shattered. Everyone pulled each other. "Howard, hold on." Chinny shouted, "Negate it. Science says, it's just a brainstorm." Xiaoqi gasped, "Boy, you have changed. Like me back then, I was brave when I should be brave." The attack stopped, but deep in the core wax chamber, the black fog became thicker, and the candles seemed to be summoning something bigger. The escape hatch on the map was close at hand, but a new threat lurked. They panted forward, and the psychological terror followed them. The air in the core room was like a wet cloth that had been tightened, so sticky that it was hard to breathe. Black mist slowly seeped out from the remains of the candle, squirming like a living thing. Howard led the way, the light beam of his mobile phone swaying to illuminate the road ahead, and the lines on the map felt slightly hot in Wang Fang's palm. "This black fog is getting thicker and thicker, Uncle. What is behind the core room?" he asked. His voice was low but steady. The courage to smash the illusion just now was still burning in his chest, so he no longer hesitated like before. Xiaoqi followed, the blood stains on his legs seeping, but he gritted his teeth and held on. "Boy, bear with it. Behind is the depth of the maze, the ancient altar, that is the source. The place where I lit the wax was right there. Go, don't stop, the monster is coming after smelling it." Chinny pushed up his glasses and scanned the surroundings. Logically, this fog is the diffusion of gas, probably the reaction between wax oil and groundwater. "Stay in formation, I will stay behind." He clutched his cell phone, trying to hold back the chill with science, but the sound of footsteps echoed in the tunnel, as chaotic as his heartbeat. Wang Fang was close to Howard, still holding the crisp map in her palm. "Howard, my intuition is not good. This road is winding and winding, as if it is going in a circle. But the altar. I can feel what it is calling." Her voice was trembling, but her eyes were clear, and her intuition was like a rope, always pulling everyone in the chaos. Suddenly there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and they fell into a larger cave, the ancient altar. In the center is a huge stone platform, engraved with twisted runes, like the earth god in the temple, but it is surrounded by black candles, and the wax tears solidify into strange patterns. The surrounding walls are embedded with rusty remnants of amusement equipment, broken merry-go-round legs, Ferris wheel chains, and the air is filled with the strange smell of wax oil and rust. Xiaoqi stopped and turned pale. "This is it." Back then, the garden was built on this site. It was originally a group of ancient tombs, and the Tutagong temple was built on top to seek wealth. But the garden director was greedy and dug deeper and dug out this altar. The candle ceremony is an old trick. It is lit at night and can connect reality and fantasy, like burning incense and worshipping, but summoning the wrong thing. He gasped, in his eyes he stared at the stone platform and said, "I was the lighting engineer in the garden at the time. The director said that just light the wax, so that more tourists would come and make money." Unexpectedly, the wax was black, and when it emerged from the ground, the monster woke up. It was not a ghost, but a guardian of the curse, which swallowed fear. On the day of the accident, all the candles were extinguished, and the garden was ruined. The missing tourists all entered the maze. Howard squatted down and touched the stone platform. The runes were cold and stinging his hands. "Uncle, if you had told me this earlier, we wouldn't have come. But now, is this altar the key? Does the diary mention a reversal? Do I need some wax?" His question was straightforward, and his leader's attitude came naturally, like an engineer dismantling a problem. Wang Fang came closer and frowned. "Howard, don't touch it. This wax circle has a pulling force. I intuitively click it and it will be worse. It's like opening a Pandora's box." Chinny nodded. "I agree. Scientifically speaking, this rune may be a conductive pattern, and wax oil is used as a medium to generate electromagnetic pulses and induce hallucinations. Reversal? High risk, say no. Xiao-Qi smiled bitterly, boys, you know more than me. But I have to pay back what I owe. I ran away and failed to save anyone, now I'm going to do something not black wax, but white wax, reverse it. He took out a small candle from his pocket, the guilt on his face turned into determination, and the fire of atonement burned in his eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, the cave shook. Laughter erupted from the four walls, like a group of ghosts having a temple fair, and the black mist condensed into tentacles and wrapped around the remaining facilities on the wall. The chains came alive, swinging and sweeping, the merry-go-round's legs were like claws, making a roar when they stepped on the ground. The monster attacked in force. A group of dark tentacles emerged from under the altar, twisting into an amusement park look. A clown face grew out of the end of the tentacles, grinning widely, wrapping around the old cockpit model, creating a chaotic chase. Run! Howard yelled, pulling Wang Fang out of the way, and a tentacle hit the ground, causing gravel to fly. His heart tightened. This was not an illusion, it was a real attack, and he had to take the lead to stabilize everyone. Chen-Yi reacted quickly. Howard, the chain on the left is the weak point. Look, there is a break there, I'll smash it with my phone. He threw the phone and hit the chain, sparks burst out and his tentacles retracted. Howard nodded, okay, cooperation. Uncle, you guard the altar, Chen-Yi, and I break the trap. Fang, where's the fork in the map? They were like gears, and Howard's leadership exploded. No longer fighting alone, he assigned tasks. His voice was sonorous. Chen-Yi, cut off the power cord. Those tentacles rely on electromagnetism to live. Chen-Yi rushed to the corner, tore off a bunch of old wires, the buzzing stopped, and several tentacles froze. It's done! Long live science, he shouted, sweat mixed with dust, but his eyes were bright, and his rationality was as stable as a rock in the crisis. Wang Fang hid behind the stone platform, her intuition as sharp as needles. Howard, don't light the candle. The reversal will attract a bigger monster, I feel, it is waiting for this moment. She shouted, while picking up a stone and throwing it at the tentacle wrapped around Xiao-Qi. Xiao-Qi struggled, girl, thank you. I have to try this atonement. He lit the white wax, the fire flashed, and the runes lit up, but the black mist counterattacked, the tentacles danced wildly, and the cave became a battlefield of pursuit. The monster tentacle threw out the clown balloon, bursting and releasing black smoke. The iron chain whipped out like a whip. Howard dodged and kicked off the chain. Chen-Yi, right. Smashed the leg of the wooden horse. Chen-Yi followed, pried open the iron pipe he picked up, and the tentacles wailed and flinched. During the action, revelations are mixed. Xiao-Qi lights the wax and shouts, I was greedy for the dividends and lit the black wax, and the monster swallowed the director. It links childhood fears, because the site is an ancient tomb, specializing in memories. I ran away, feeling guilty for 20 years, and now I make up for it. His contribution deepened the depth, from a concealer to a victim, and the flame of atonement illuminated the team. The climax came in the middle. The black fog was so thick that you couldn't see your fingers, the tentacles were attacking in large numbers, and the facilities around the altar were all alive. The old Ferris wheel model rolled towards it, and the cockpit opened like a huge mouth. Howard pushed Chen-Yi away. I'll block. Uncle, hold the candle steady. He rushed forward, his engineer's instinct led him to aim at the base of the model, and hit the gear with one punch, causing iron filings to fly. The monster's tentacles wrapped around his legs, as cold as ghost hands, and pulled him into the black mist. Howard! Wang Fang screamed, and his instincts exploded. Look at the altar. That rune gap, smash it. Chen-Yi analyzed, yes, break the circuit. The three of them worked together. Howard took the lead in smashing the runes, Chen-Yi pried the iron chain, Wang Fang threw the stone, and the tentacles shattered. In the chaos, the movement and the inner tugsaw were balanced, revealing childhood trauma like a tidal wave. The hallucination occurs again, this time it is shared. The cave twists into a childhood amusement park, the lights flicker like New Year fireworks, and everyone's memories intertwine. Howard saw his parents laughing and joking on the merry-go-round when he was a child, but was swallowed up by the shadow. Cheney recalled the accident in the garden in elementary school, and his father's science book fell into the fog, and he was unable to pick it up. Wang Fang recalled the first date with Haoran, playing bumper cars in the garden, but heard the cry of the missing child. Xiao Qi's scene was the most serious. When he was lighting wax, his colleagues were dragged away by tentacles, like burning gold paper during the new year but burning out ghosts. "We have all been to this garden?" Haoran asked breathlessly, and the monster's tentacles turned into their childhood selves, glaring and whispering, "Your fear fed us." The common trauma revealed. It turns out that the four of them had witnessed the edge of the accident when they were children. Haoran was hiding behind the Trojan horse, Cheney was outside the fence, Wang Fang held his parents' hands, and Xiao Qi was the inside ghost. That wound is like a root, connecting everything, and the monster feeds on it. This is not a coincidence. Cheney yelled, shaking in his rationality. Science says it's a subconscious connection. Deny it, we have to face the fear we share together. Haoran nodded, and his leadership reached a strong point. He stopped questioning and tightened everyone. "Listen. Uncle, your atonement and our past have all been destroyed." Fang, intuition points the way. Cheney, cut off the source. There was a brief flash in his heart. He has grown up, from a curious boy to a pillar. Xiao Qi's candle flame flickered. "Boy, you take the lead, I'll follow." He rushed into the pile of tentacles, smashed a wax statue, and acted as an atonement, deepening the depth like the roots of an old tree. The tentacles retreated a little, the altar runes dimmed, but the candle flames were unstable, and there was a faint movement in the black mist. The escape hatch is behind the cave, and a hidden iron ladder leads to the base of the Ferris wheel, but a new threat is brewing. The reversal of the wax fire seems to have awakened something deeper. They gasped and looked at each other, their awe-inspiring eyes lighting up the road ahead like lamps, but the shadow of fear was still tugging at them. Haoran breathed heavily, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and glanced at everyone in the dark fog. The stone platform at the edge of the altar was still shaking slightly, and the fragments of the tentacles were scattered on the ground like dead fish. The air was filled with the smell of burnt wax, mixed with rust and underground moisture, making people's noses sour. "Is everyone okay?" "Uncle, your candle is still burning," he asked in a low voice, with a fresh sense of leadership in his voice. He was no longer a simple curious boy, but a pillar holding up this mess. Wang Fang leaned on his arm, her chest rising and falling. "Haoran, my intuition tells me that this wax fire is unstable, just like burning incense to worship the earth god but burning the wrong temple, it will cause greater trouble." Her hand was holding the map tightly, her palms were wet, but her eyes were undisturbed. Her intuition was like a lifeline. Xiao Qi knelt beside the stone platform, the flame of the white candle swaying in the wind, reflecting his pale face. "Boy, listen. This reversal is no joke. Back then, the director of the garden forced me to light black wax, saying it was an old tradition to bring good fortune. It was as lively as burning gold paper during the new year. But I am not as simple as a lighting worker." He paused, staring at the wax fire. The voice was as low as the echo in the tunnel. "My ancestors are the tomb keepers of this ancient tomb. They have been passed down from generation to generation and are responsible for the underground maze. When the director was digging the garden, I should have blocked it, but he gave me money and I relented. On the day of lighting the wax, I secretly added the ancestral prohibition. As a result, the monster not only woke up, but also tied up our fears. Aren't all those missing tourists dead? Some of them became ghosts, trapped in hallucinations forever, like being trapped in a bed by a ghost, unable to wake up. I ran away, leaving my colleagues in UNZ behind, feeling like a stone for 20 years. The head pressed against the heart. Now, this white wax is an ancestral curse, but it can backfire, ignite the reverse curse, and the monster will swallow the person who takes the initiative first, draining his memories and turning him into an empty shell forever." His words were like a bomb, exploding the air, and everyone's faces froze. All Xiao Qi's secrets were revealed, and he changed from a concealer to a self-revealed atonement. This turn was like a key, unlocking the root of the maze and instantly deepening the team's trust. Cheney pushed up his slipped glasses and knelt down to check the runes on the stone platform. "Uncle, what you said, scientifically, the runes may be ancient circuits. Wax oil conducts electricity and generates hallucination fields. Can it backfire? It sounds like a psychological suggestion amplification effect, and our fear will rebound. His voice was still steady, but his fingers were shaking slightly, and his rationality was pulling like a rope. Howren, we have to vote. Do you click or not? The risk is high, but if you don't click, the monsters will all wake up. Wang Fang shook his head. I intuitively say yes, but you have to be careful about the location. On the map, there are 4 wax slots next to the altar, but one is missing. The runes are the brightest on the east side, like the incense positions in Tudugong Temple. You have to click there to reverse the situation without blowing up the pot. Like lightning, cutting through the black fog, everyone looked at each other and nodded. Fang, thank you. Uncle, you take the lead, we will guard the border. Chenyi, monitor the rune changes. Fang, keep an eye on the forks in the map. This time, we will carry it together. His words were down to earth, like a meeting of a university club, but with a sense of warmth. Emotional support was woven into a web in the crisis, tightening the scattered heart. Xiaoqi took a deep breath and moved to the east wax tank pointed by Wang Fang, where the runes were twisting like living snakes. He lit the second stick of white wax, and with a flash of fire, the altar shook violently, like gongs and drums in a temple, but in reverse. The black mist suddenly rose, and the wax fire reflected the shadows of the facilities on the wall. Broken iron chains, wooden horse legs, all came alive, like a ghostly procession, coming from the depths of the cave. The monster's tentacles no longer flicked around, but turned into childhood nightmares. The smiling faces of his parents on the carousel appeared in front of Howren's eyes, but were pulled underground by the shadows, and his little hands were unable to grasp. Chenyi saw his father's science book fall into the fog, and when he was in elementary school, he cried, "Dad, explain," but only the empty fence was left. Wang Fang's date scene was distorted. The bumper car turned into a monster car. Howren's face turned into a clown, grinning and saying, "You are timid. You are not worthy." Xiaoqi felt the most severe guilt. The ghost of his ancestors called him a traitor, lit the wrong wax, ruined the family tradition. These hallucinations surrounded them, like a New Year's fireworks show, but a scary version, with their little childhood faces growing out of the ends of the tentacles, crying and sucking fear. This is not true." Chenyi yelled and hit a tentacle. The iron pipe bent, but the rationality in his eyes cracked. In the hallucination, Dad's voice echoed, "Son, science can't save you." His legs went weak, and he knelt down and held his head. "Howren, I can't hold on anymore. This logic is broken. Everything is a trap of fear. I was afraid of this garden when I was a child. Dad said it was an illusion, but now." His collapse was like a domino. The fortress of rationality collapsed. His voice was crying, and the analyst in daily life became a little brother who needed to be hugged. Howren rushed over and pulled him up. "Chenyi, listen to me. How many times has your science saved us? This is a monster playing tricks, just like when our parents coaxed us when we were young. The fear will pass. Get up and smash together." His words were like hot soup, pouring on Chenyi's heart, and the emotional support brought him back to reality. Chenyi wiped his face and grasped the iron pipe tightly. "Howren. Thanks, buddy. I'll try to cut off the power rune." He jumped up and hit a shining rune, causing sparks to fly and several tentacles to retract. Wang Fang screamed, and a tentacle that transformed into Howren's childhood appearance wrapped around her leg. "Howren, it says I'm not good enough for you." Her instinct exploded. She picked up a stone and smashed it open, while shouting, "The wax tank. The fire is strong in the east. Look at the black wax residue in the north. It must be cleared away, or it will backfire." Xiaoqi heard her crucial prompt and crawled over to use his hands. He dug out a piece of black wax and threw it into the fire. The altar runes lit up white, but the monster procession was even more fierce. Out-of-control facilities were like a procession of ghosts. An old Ferris wheel model rolled in, and the cockpit opened its mouth to spit out black smoke. The merry-go-round's legs stepped on, making the sound of temple gongs and drums, but mixed with cries. Tentacles surrounded the edge of the altar. Everyone was back to back, with Howren blocking the front. "Uncle, hold on to the wax fire." Fang, where's the escape on the map? Wang Fang gasped. The back iron ladder leads to the Ferris wheel. But monsters are blocking the road, so we have to clear the way. Howard's heart sank, and a brief flash occurred in his mind. I can't hide anymore, this fear belongs to me, I have to sacrifice something for everyone's livelihood. His growth turned to a sense of sacrifice, like an engineer diffusing bombs and calculating risks. You go first, I'll cut off the last, he roared, rushing into the pile of tentacles. Engineering logic led him to aim at the base of the Trojan leg, and kicked off the gear, causing iron filings to fly. The monster-incarnated shadow of his childhood parents rushed towards him, wrapping cold tentacles around his waist. Boy, your curiosity killed the cat, sacrifice it. Howard gritted his teeth and faced it head-on. Mom and Dad, it's not you. This is my fear of leaving everyone behind, like when I was a child hiding from the Trojan horse and ignoring the accident. He roared, hitting the heart of the shadow with his fist. The illusion shattered, the tentacles wailed and dispersed, briefly repelling the wave. Blood flowed from his arm, and after a moment of respite, everyone's eyes changed, gratitude mixed with worry. Wang Fang pulled him. Howard, fool, let's come together. Chinny added, yes, team logic. Smash that wheel. Xiao Qi waxed brightly. Boy, your courage is like that of my ancestors guarding the tomb. The backlash is coming, I will block the first wave. His act of atonement pushed the plot, the wax light spread, and the monster parade slowed down for half a beat. But in the black mist, a bigger shadow moved. The wax tank at the edge of the altar cracked, and the reversal of fire caused a low roar from the ground, like an angry landlord, surrounding the facility like a ghost. Howard helped Chinny up. Let's go, iron ladder. They fought and retreated. Wang Fang intuitively pointed the way. Turn left, avoid the smoke. Emotions flowed in the conversation. Xiao Qi gasped, thank you for trusting me, I feel lighter now that I have finished telling the secret. Chinny calmed down. Uncle, science and tradition, we win. The monster's tentacles chased after him, incarnating into more fragments of childhood, and cries echoed, but Howard's sense of sacrifice was like a lamp, illuminating the escape route. The iron ladder is in sight, but there are new tentacles climbing up from the bottom of the ladder, the wax fire is swaying, and the shadow of the backlash is lengthening. As soon as Howard's hand touched the rusty handrail of the iron ladder, there was a muffled sound under his feet, as if some giant beast was turning over underground. The wax fire jumped halfway up Xiao Qi's palm, reflecting the black shadow at the bottom of the ladder. The tentacles were no longer simple whips, but grew layers of barbs, with sticky ink dripping from the ends, like the black ash left after the exploding fireworks of a New Year's temple fair, but with a sweet and rotten smell. Hurry up! The monster is waking up! He shouted, stepping on the first step. The iron ladder shook as if it was about to break, and pieces of rust fell off. Wang Fang followed closely behind, and her intuition told her to hold on to the corner of Howard's clothes. Howard, there is a crack in the right wall, don't step in the middle, it's empty there, like a trap behind a ghost gate. Her voice was sharp but steady, and her usual timidity turned into an alarm bell, jingling in the dark fog. Chinny climbed up panting, still holding the iron pipe in his hand. The wax fire is burning too brightly, and the backlash is coming. The runes are as bright as a short-circuit light. This is not a reversal, it is exacerbating the fire. He turned back and glanced at the altar, where the white wax flames had already burned. It turned into a blue light, and the shadows of the facilities on the wall came to life. The broken wheels of the bumper wheels rolled and hit the steps of the ladder, making a ghostly howl of metal friction. The cockpit door of the old Ferris wheel opened and closed with a loud bang, like a mouth wide open to swallow mist. The monster's tentacles sprang up from the bottom of the ladder and wrapped around Xiao Qi's ankle. He ouched and almost dropped the candle. Uncle, shake it off! Howard leaned over to pull him. The engineer's head flew around, calculating the load-bearing capacity of the ladder. Chinny, hit the base of the tentacle. Fang, where does the top of the ladder lead to on the map? Xiao Qi gritted his teeth and exerted force. The candle flame flickered and the tentacles loosened, but his face turned pale. Boy, this wax fire aroused not simple monsters, but collective resentment. The garden accident that year, the fears of tourists were all buried in this maze, like the memorial tablets for the guilty souls in the Tugong temple. If you light the wrong wax, they will all come out. As soon as he finished speaking, earth and rocks began to fall from the top of the tunnel. With a click, long cracks opened in the wall on the left, and dust rushed in. Illusion and reality were mixed together. Howard's eyes blurred. The ladder turned into a carousel when he was a child, and his parents' smiling faces reappeared, but they were pulled into the underground carousel by the shadows. Howard, you are too curious, your parents are in trouble for you, and you don't have a long memory. The voice was like his father's, rough and disappointed, and the tentacles turned into his hands, pulling him down. Howard's heart tightened, and a brief thought flashed through his heart. This is not Dad, but my fear of repeating the accident in childhood and leaving everyone behind. His hands trembled, but the leader's determination came to him. It's not true. Parents would say, Howard, be brave and dismantle it step by step like building a project. He shouted, punched the phantom, the tentacles shattered into smoke, and the ladder of reality became stable again. Howard, what did you just say? Wang Fang crawled next to him, her eyes were red, and her hallucination came over. Howard's face twisted into a clown, grinning. Fang, no matter how accurate your intuition is, you can't save us, you are cowardly, damn it. She shook her head. Shut up. This is a lie. I intuitively tell you that there is a side passage at the top of the ladder to turn right to avoid the collapse. She pointed at the map, and the fear in her voice turned into determination, like the fierceness of a girl asking for a lottery in the temple after she got the lottery. Everyone climbed faster. Xiao Qi was behind the apse, and the candle flames lengthened his shadow. Girl, that's right. That side passage is an ancestral road guard. It leads to the control room and can cut off the monster's power supply. But the backlash is serious. I have to block it. His words were like last words, and the fire of guilt and atonement was burning brightly. The collapse of the tunnel became louder and louder, earth and rocks rained down, and the monster's tentacles took advantage of the chaos to jump higher and become thicker. Remains of the amusement park grew out of the surface, pieces of rusty iron and fragments of colored lights, which shone with a strange red light, like will-o'-the-wisps hidden in holiday lanterns. The chase scene was chaotic. Howard was leading the way, using the iron rod he picked up to pry open the iron cover on the top of the ladder. Chenyi was protecting Wang Fang in the middle, breaking several tentacles that were entangled. Scientifically, these tentacles are hallucination amplifiers, and our fear makes them grow. Howard, collective fear is the source, we must cut off the root. Wang Fang screamed, left. The soil is about to collapse. She pulled Chenyi out of the way, and a big stone hit the original position, making people cough with dust. Xiao Qi stood behind the palace and held up the candle. Come on, monster. I am the tombkeeper. I planted this disaster, and I will reap it. A giant tentacle suddenly burst out from the ground, wrapped around his waist, and dragged him deep into the crack. He struggled and shouted, Boys, let's go. I am the guardian, it was passed down from my ancestors, and I have to carry the wax back. I didn't stop the director from digging the tomb back then. Now I have added the sealing method on the control room panel, smash the red talisman in the middle, and present the memory to lock it. His words exploded like thunder, revealing the final secret. He was not an ordinary tour guide, but a descendant who had guarded this underground labyrinth for generations. The hidden responsibilities were overwhelming, and now they were all shaken out, in exchange for the impact of the team. Uncle! Don't let go! Howard turned around and tried to pull, but the tentacles yanked hard, and Xiao Qi's figure instantly disappeared into the black mist. The candle fell and the fire went out, making the tunnel darker. Amid the clicking sound, Xiao Qi's cry echoed, Howard, remember, collective fear breeds monsters, sacrifice your memory to seal it. It's like burning paper money for salvation, it hurts but you have to do it. The tentacles retreated, taking away his figure, leaving only the blood-stained ground. Wang Fang covered her mouth. He, for us, intuitively said that he was not dead, but was blocking the road. Her tears fell, but her intuition did not stop, pointing to the side. Quick, there is light there, the control room. The impact of emotions was like waves, Howren's fists were clenched, and the determination to grow was like fire. Uncle's sacrifice cannot be in vain, I have to face the price, give up the shameful memory of my childhood, and seal this damn thing. His voice was low. Fong, thank you. Chani, let's go to the control room and fix that panel. The monster is catching up. Listen to the footsteps, like a ghost drum troupe at a temple fair. The chase reaches its peak, monsters come in like a tide, and illusions are superimposed on reality. The ghosts of tourists appear on the tunnel walls, crying save me, fear swallows us up. The tentacles turn into out-of-control facilities, and the wheels of the Ferris will roll towards them. Howren ducks, uses engineering logic to aim at the wheel axle, and smashes it with a stick. Chani, the weak point here is the gears, like dismantling an old machine. Chani nodded and returned rationally, yes, the tradition of science and uncle. The panel is an old-fashioned circuit, I can repair it. They rushed into the side passage, and behind the door was a small room. The dusty control panel was shining red, and runes were crawling like snakes. Wang Fang guarded the door. Instinct says, the monster will arrive in 2 minutes. Don't touch the button on the right, it's a trap. Her guidance saved life. Chani rushed to the panel, put on the remnants of his gloves. Howren, help me stabilize the wires, this is out of control because of a short circuit in the black wax, fixing it can stop the monster. Howren held onto the swaying door frame, and his heart flashed, this is a high price, giving away memories is like throwing away childhood photos, but for everyone, I have to try. Chani's fingers fluttered and he opened the panel cover. Look, this red talisman is the core. I broke it open to reveal the memory. Scientifically speaking, it's the brainwave connection. The collective field of fear will rebound. The tentacle hit the door with a bang, and Wang Fang threw a stone to block it. Hold on. Intuition says there is an escape behind the passage. Howren nodded. Fang, you lead the way. Chani, hurry up. Sparks flew from the panel, and Chani burst into flames. Shouting, it's done. Pause for 5 minutes, but the seal comes with great force. Smash the red talisman, thinking of your fear, turned into sealing power. The monster roared closer, the earth and rocks collapsed, the roof cracked, the supernatural horror reached a climax. In the black mist, Shao Qi's phantom appeared, smiled and said, boy, do it, I will guard. The tentacles broke through the door, and the end grew everyone's childhood face, sucking the soul. Howren took a deep breath, and his determination to grow exploded. Here we come. For uncle, for us. He smashed his fist on the red talisman, and memories came flooding back. The screams of the accident when he was a child, the shadows of his parents, all turned into white light. The talisman lit up, and the monster wailed and retreated. But the backlash was like a needle pricking his brain. Howren's vision went dark, and he knelt down and gasped, it hurts, but it's worth it. Chani, the panel is stable, the monster is slow. Fang, where's the escape? Wang Fang pulled him up. Howren, you are stupid. Intuition said that the back door leads to the ground, but the monster is still chasing. Shao Qi's sacrifice opened the way, we have to run. Chani helped the other side. Team logic. Howren, your courage saved us. Let's go, the seal is half completed, and the rest must find an exit. They rushed out of the control room. Although the tunnel collapsed, the side passages lit up with white light. The monster's tentacles chased him, but half a beat later. Shao Qi's cry was mixed with the echo, boys, hold on. Howren gritted his teeth and moved forward. The price was as painful as fire, but his determination made him stand up straight. The flames of leadership burned brighter. In the black mist, the light of escape was faintly ahead. The white light swayed in front, like a lotus lantern in a temple, flickering on and off, tempting them to move forward. Howren gritted his teeth, and the pain in his head was still surging, as if a rusty hammer was hitting the scar in his childhood. The smiling faces of his parents, the screams of the accident, all shattered into white light and sealed into runes. But the monster was not completely dead, and its tentacles were dragging behind it, making a sound like the gongs and drums of a temple fair, pounding in the heart. Hold on, Howren. Wang Fang pulled his arm from the left, her tears still hanging on her face. Hot, dripping onto his sleeve, like lotus leaf beads after the rain, slippery but steady. Instinctively, that light is the exit, and the breath from the ground is approaching. Uncle Xiaoqi's road was not in vain. We have to run out and tell the outsiders the secret of this hellish place. Her voice was trembling, but her eyes were fierce, like a girl who usually prays to gods and Buddhas, and will not admit defeat even if a bad lot is drawn. Chenyi was holding on to the right, still holding the iron pipe tightly, and gasped, "The panel has been repaired, but the backlash is huge. The circuits in this maze are like old temple lamp wires, all short-circuited. The monster's slowness is temporary. Scientifically speaking, collective fear is the fuel, and our brain waves are still feeding it. Howren, when you smashed the red talisman, I saw your face was as white as paper money. How much memory did you donate? Don't be brave, the team logic is to share." As he said, he looked back, and there was a faint red light coming from the cracks in the side wall, like the embers of New Year's firecrackers, inexhaustible resentment. Howren shook his head, and there was a brief flash in his heart. "It hurts, but my uncle's last words were there. Only by sacrificing memory can I lock the monster. I can't give up halfway, like engineering drawings. If the drawing is crooked, it will be completely destroyed." His footsteps didn't stop. "Chenyi, don't talk nonsense, science and tradition, this seal is half completed, it must be completed. Fang, be careful on the curve ahead, listen to the sound, the soil is about to loosen." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a rumble from the top of the tunnel, like a cow turning over, and dust flying down. Although the candle that Xiaoqi dropped was extinguished, the aftermath of the blue light did not dissipate. There was a muffled sound from the direction of the altar, and the entire maze seemed to come alive. The stone bricks on the wall squirmed, growing rust-like veins, and small tentacles emerged from the veins, as thin as hair but sticky, and wrapped around their shoelaces. "Oh my God, what is this?" Wang Fang screamed and kicked one of the legs away. "I intuitively say that the wax is extinguished and the backlash is huge. The whole underground is like a waking earth god, and all the resentment is flowing out." Chenyi glared. "Yes, the wax fire is a catalyst. If it is extinguished, it means a power outage, but the curse of the black wax rebounds, and the maze is activated into a supernatural ecology. Look, behind." He pointed to the way he came from, in the black mist. Not only the tentacles, but also the shadow of the out-of-control facility. The bumper car with broken wheels rolled like a beast, and the tires were covered with barbs. The Ferris wheel's cockpit door opened and closed, spitting out the ghost figures of tourists, crying, "Fear swallows us, join us." The monster and the facility joined forces, wrapped their tentacles around the bumper car, pushed it to accelerate and crash, as fast as a temple fair car, and rushed straight towards them. Howren's heart sank, and Xiaoqi's last words replayed in his mind. Collective fear gave birth to a monster, sacrificing memory to seal it, like burning paper money to achieve salvation. It hurts but has to be done. He suddenly remembered the details of the ceremony. When the director of the park dug the grave, he did not just summon the black wax, but used the visitors' childhood fears as sacrifices and buried them in the maze wall. Uncle said that to seal it, you have to sacrifice an equal amount of memory. Smashing the red talisman is just the beginning. To seal it all, you have to smash the core, which is hidden in the last bend before the exit. Stop! We can't go straight to the light, we have to go around the last hurdle. Howren shouted, pulling the two of them into the side seam. Dust fell on the spot. The bumper car passed by, scraping the corners of his clothes, and tearing them, like ghost claws scratching his heart. Chenyi, Fang, listen, the source of the ceremony is the collective fear. I have to sacrifice all my childhood memories, the accident between my parents, smash it into the core and seal the monster. Otherwise, it will be useless to go out. This ghost will jump to the ground and swallow up the city. His voice was low and hoarse, and the brave flame burned into selfless ashes, and he flashed in his heart, this price is high, like losing half of his life, but for them, in order to prevent Uncle Bai from dying, I have to do it. Chenyi suddenly stopped and hit the iron pipe on the ground. Howren, are you crazy? Scientifically speaking, brainwave connections provide memory, which is equivalent to self-destructing firewalls. Your engineering brain and curiosity are all connected to the thread of childhood. What if you become a vegetable? The team cannot be carried by one person, I object. Let's repair the panel and find other ways. Don't be like the stupid heroes in costume dramas. His eyes turned red, his rationality collapsed into pieces. He grabbed Howard's shoulder and shook it. My good friend, Chen-Yi owes you a life, but you can't pay for it in full. Think about Wang Fang. No matter how accurate her intuition is, she still needs you. The tension of friendship tightened, like a rope tugging at the heart. Chen-Yi's voice was mixed with fear, and the usual doubts turned into worries, and the scientist rarely softened. Wang Fang's tears welled up again and fell to the ground. She rushed forward and hugged Howard's waist. Howard, don't, you are stupid. Intuitively, this seal will hurt people to death. But Uncle Shao-Chi blocked it for us. I know the fire in your heart is burning brightly, like the ever-burning lantern in my temple. But if you offer it, what should we do? After 2 years of dating, you promised to take me to eat stinky tofu at the night market after the expedition, and laugh all night long. She cried intermittently. Love is like a vine, and the timid girl came up with all her strength at this moment, wiping away tears and saying, but, intuition also says that if you don't do it, the monster will chase out of the ground and swallow more people. Howard, I support you, but we have to bear it together. I also share my fear. Intuition tells me how to help. She straightened up, her eyes were firm, his face was reflected in the tears, and the emotional support was like a warm current, diluting the brain pain, making Howard's selfless determination more stable. Fang, thank you, Chen-Yi, your opposition made me sober. This is not about showing off, but about responsibility. My uncle's sacrifice and your friendship and love all push me forward. Howard took a deep breath, and the turning point in his growth was like a floodgate opening. Bravery no longer means fighting alone, but giving up for everyone. The monster chased after him, the bumper car hit the wall, debris flew, and tentacles sprang out from the cracks, and the ends turned into the faces of his parents, whispering, Howard, don't leave us, fear will always be there. The hallucination came again, Howard's eyes blurred, the tunnel turned into a childhood amusement park, the merry-go-round turned dizzy, and the shadows of his parents were pulled by the monster. He thought briefly in his heart, this is my fear, but now, I choose to be selfless. Let's go. The core is at the last bend, 50 meters before the exit. He shouted, pulling the two of them out of the side seam, his footsteps like the wind. The climax of the chase breaks out, and the maze comes to life. The floor bulges like the back of a giant beast, and bounces when you step on it, almost throwing Wang Fang away. Rails grow out of the wall, and the carriages of the old roller coasters slide down, full of ghosts rushing towards you, and the wheels creak like the teeth of an innocent soul. The monster tentacles join forces with the facility to wrap around the car and push forward. The red light flashed like a ghost festival light, illuminating their shadows and twisting them into monsters. Flash right! Wang Fang screamed, instinctively saving his life, and pulled Chen-Yi to avoid a tentacle whip. Chen-Yi hit back and cut off the iron pipe. Logic point, the weak point here is the track joint. Howard, the engineering eye is right. Howard nodded, used the iron piece he picked up to pry the rail, and it twisted and broke. The carriage derailed and rolled, hitting the group of monsters, and wailing sounds spread everywhere. Good. But the heart core is close. Listen, the buzzing sound is like an old electric fan. He gasped, his brain pain worsened and his vision blurred, but the strength of friendship and love held him up. Chen-Yi's shoulder padding and Wang Fang's holding hands were like amulets in the temple, warm. At the end of the curve, the core of the heart emerges, a red talisman is embedded in the wall, its veins are like a heartbeat, and the ashes of candles are scattered around. Monsters surged, and the facilities were in full swing. The Ferris wheel wheels rolled, bumper cars collided, tentacle nets opened, and ghosts sang join the fear, you will never be alone. Howard rushed forward, Chen-Yi, hold me steady. Fang, block the side. Chen-Yi supported him back, friend, hold on, science says, you will faint after the backlash, but we will carry you out. Wang Fang threw stones at the tentacles. Howard, my intuition said, give it to me, I love you. Tears flew, her emotions were like fire, igniting his determination. Howard raised his fist, and all the memories came flooding back. Childhood accidents, the warmth of his parents, and the foolishness of adventure, all turned into white light. For Uncle, for you. With one smash, the core of the heart shattered, red light exploded, the monsters wailed and retreated, the veins of the maze withered, the facilities stopped, and collapsed into ruins with a clicking sound. With a wave of brain pain, Howard knelt down. Half of his vision was black, and memory fragments were scattered. His parents' faces were blurred, but the selfless warmth remained. The seal is fully locked," he murmured, and Chinny helped him up. "Howard, you are selfless, our hero. The exit is bright, let's go." Wang Fang hugged tightly. "Fool, after we go out, I will cook porridge for you." Instinctively, it is daybreak outside. The three of them supported each other, stepped on the gravel. The monster lingered behind, the black mist gradually dissipated, the light engulfed the figure, and ran towards the gap of freedom. The light squeezed in through the gaps, like the moonlight leaking into the temple, shining on the gravel, carrying the wet smell of the soil outside. Howard was moved forward by Chinny and Wang Fang. Every step felt like stepping on cotton. The pain in his head was still buzzing. The memory of his childhood was shattered. Only the blurry outlines of his parents' faces were left, like old photos soaked in water. But he didn't have time to think about it. The monster roared behind him, like a hungry wild dog. The sound of breathing was mixed with metal friction. The wheels of the bumper car were still spinning around in the rubble, making a creaking wail. "Hurry, the exit is over there," Howard urged, panting, his voice dumb as if he had swallowed sand. "Don't let go, Fang, Chinny, we have to go out together, otherwise Uncle's sacrifice will be in vain." Wang Fang held his hand tightly, her palms sticky with sweat. "Howard, I intuitively said that there is a wind outside, and freedom is close. But that thing behind, it is not dead. It feels like a resentful spirit that can't be shaken off." Her eyes were red and swollen, but she didn't shed any more tears. The usually timid girl seemed to be a different person now, with fire in her eyes, and she pulled him forward. Chinny was breathing heavily on the other side, and the iron pipe had long since broken. He took out the last prop from his pocket, a homemade electric shock device. It was originally a self-defense device for exploration, but now it has become a life-saving straw. Logically, the seal hit the heart core, so the monster should be weakened, but the backlash can make it recover elastically, like a virus restarting. "Howard, how much memory did you give? Your face is as white as a ghost. Don't hold on, I will support you." As he said, he turned back and flicked the flashlight, and the tube light swept through the black mist, illuminating the twisted shadow at the end of the tentacle, with new sprouts growing faintly, and the red light pulsating, like a beating heart. They had just taken 10 or so steps when the tunnel suddenly trembled, as if a dragon was turning over underground. The exit gap was right in front of us, and if it was a little wider, we could see the grass outside and the lights of the city in the distance, but the monster didn't give it a chance. The black mist suddenly surged up, and the tentacles whipped out like whips, and the ends turned into the phantoms of his parents, stretching out their hands and pleading, "Howard, don't go, fear is home, stay." The hallucination reached its peak, Howard's eyes blurred, and the entire tunnel turned into a scene from the future. He walked out of the amusement park and stood on the street, but he forgot Wang Fang's smile and Chinyi's complaints. His head was empty, like a paper man who had lost his soul. Shadows shroud the city, monsters emerge from the ground, devouring the cries of night market vendors, and tourists turn into ghosts and wander around. He saw that he had become a stranger, his soul could not be drawn on the engineering drawings, and his friendship and love disappeared like smoke, leaving only empty bravery. No, this is not the future. Howard's heart flashed, and his vision turned black with pain, but he gritted his teeth and shook his head. This is an illusion fed by monsters. It wants to use my fear to drag me into the water. Chinny, Fang, don't believe what you see, pull me away. The monster got closer, and its tentacles wrapped around his legs. The slime was as cold as grave soil, and the pulling force was so strong that it felt like it was tearing apart the bones. A fight broke out. Howard struggled to kick one away, and his heel hit the tentacle, making a muffled sound, like being hit in rotten flesh. Damn it, let go, he shouted, reaching out to grab Wang Fang's arm to steady himself. Wang Fang screamed and her instinct came to her. She threw away a thin tentacle, picked up the iron piece on the ground and poked at it. Howren, hold on. Intuition says, this monster's weakness is at its root, don't let it get close. Her movements were panicked but ruthless, tears mixed with sweat, love turned into strength. She poked off a small tentacle, black juice spurted out, burning the back of her hand red and swollen. Chinny reacted quickly, the electric shock device buzzed, and he pressed the switch. The blue arc shot out and hit the group of tentacles. The air was filled with a burning smell, like the smoke of burning paper money. Scientific props come in. This current interferes with the brainwave connection, temporarily blocking its attack. The monster uses fear as electricity, cut off its wires. He shouted, the electric shock device flashed 3 times in a row, the tentacles twitched and retreated half a meter, the monster let out a low cry like a wolf howl, and the wreckage of the facility stopped rolling. The wheels of the Ferris wheel were stuck in the gravel, and the creaking sound weakened. But it was temporarily blocked, and the black fog became thicker again, and the core of the monster emerged a red and black vortex, with veins beating like blood vessels, flashing fragments of their childhood, Howren's parents' accident, Wang Fang's ghost story in the temple when he was a child, Chen Yi's night when he was frightened by the science book. They were all sucked in and used as fuel. It's absorbing the remaining fear. Chen Yi gasped, and the electric shock device battery flashed red. Howren, the seal is unstable and must be reversed. Look, the runes on the wall are hidden. Wang Fang's intuition came to the rescue again. She pointed to the stone wall beside the exit. A rune under a piece of moss glowed faintly, like the evil-suppressing inscriptions in an ancient temple. Intuition said, this is a reversal charm. Uncle Shao-Chi mentioned it, activate it, it can rebound the curse, but it need to inject traumatic memories to balance the seal. Her voice was trembling, but her eyes were locked on Howren. Howren, take the initiative, let's work together. Add some fear to me, and your intuition will tell me how to touch. The emotional tension was full, she hugged his waist, and her hot tears fell on his shoulders. Don't bear it alone, I love you, we will hurt together. Howren nodded, his head hurting like needles, but he felt the warmth of friendship and love, like incense in a temple, supporting his selflessness. Okay, Fang, Chen Yi, let's go together. This sacrifice is not the end, it is a sign. After we go out, the shadow is still there, but we have become stronger. He stretched out his hand to touch the rune, and with a touch of his finger, blue light sprang up, reverse activation, the veins of the rune lit up, the monster whirlpool trembled, and its tentacles waved around like a dying snake. Chen Yi threw away the empty electric shock device, grabbed the iron piece and pried the edge of the rune. Logic point, stabilize the frequency when injecting, I will block the side. He smashed away a tentacle that was coming, and his movements were full of force. His usual rationality was now turned into protection. Howren, my friend, give it. Science and tradition, this reversal will weaken it, but the price, your memory will be even more broken, like defense. The wall of fire collapsed halfway. Wang Fang pressed the rune from the side and injected it into her fragment, the ghostly shadow of the temple festival in her childhood. Her intuition was like a flash of light. Howren, do you feel it? My fear is added to lighten your pain. After we go out, we will revisit the night market, and I'll treat you to stinky tofu. Her words were filled with tears, but she laughed out loud. Love is like a bridge, connecting their traumas. At this moment, the air cooled, and the afterimage of Shao-Chi's soul emerged, not an entity, only a translucent outline, like a portrait in a temple, with a blue light shining in his eyes. He did not speak, but nodded at first, and then whispered like the wind, boys, final reminder, reversal requires core embers. Howren, Nian Shu's last words when injecting it, fear the collective, sacrifice to disperse. Don't throw it all away, keep some warmth, otherwise the shadow will always be cast. The afterimage dispersed, touching Howren's shoulder, sending a chill, like the final entrustment of a tombkeeper. Howren's heart felt hot and he felt short in his heart. Uncle, thank you, this reminder lets me know the price. The memory is broken, but the soul remains. Got it, Uncle. He shouted, pressing his fist into the core of the rune, actively injecting personal traumatic memories, the screams of his parents in the accident, the silly curiosity at the beginning of the adventure, the white light rushing in, the monsters swirling and screaming, red and black cracking, and the tentacles withered like burned paper money. At the climax of the fight, Wang Fang screamed and blocked a severed tentacle. Chenyi pounced on Howren and kept pouring in, "Hold on. Emotional logic, friendship supports you." The monster retreated, the facilities collapsed, gravel rolled down, the exit gap was wide open, and the wind blew in outside, mixed with the sound of cars in the city. Howren withdrew his hand, his vision went dark again, and hallucinations of the future flashed through him. He forgot the warmth of his parents, but remembered Wang Fang's tears and Chenyi's pat on the shoulder. Although the shadow enveloped the city, the three of them held hands and became the fire of resistance. Sacrificing natural integration is like an engineer repairing the last circuit, painful but stable. "It's done, the monster is weak, reverse and lock." He murmured, his knees softened and he knelt down. Chenyi helped him up. "Howren, hero. The price is high, but we carry it out. Science says, you will faint, but you will be with us when you wake up." Wang Fang hugged him tightly and kissed his forehead. "Fool," intuition said, "it's dawn outside, but the shadows remain. Let's go together." They pushed each other and stepped on the last gravel. The monster's roar faded behind, and the light engulfed the figure. There was a faint sigh from Xiaoqi in the wind, indicating the price of freedom, the blankness of memory and eternal vigilance. They stumbled out of the tunnel, and the night wind outside blew into their faces like an old friend, mixed with the earthy smell of grass and the barbecue smoke from the distant night market. Howren's knees are still weak, and a piece of his head feels like it has been hollowed out. His parents' faces were already blurry, and now even the screams of the accident have faded, leaving only empty echoes, like the silence after a temple bell strikes. The monster's roar gradually weakened in the depths of the tunnel, like an evil spirit stuffed back into a bottle. The seal was activated, and the runes under the moss still flickered on the stone wall. The cracks on the tunnel wall slowly closed, and the gravel stopped rolling down, and everything stabilized. But Howren felt the price. The memory fragments slipped through his fingers like sand, and the silly energy of childhood adventures and the warm embrace of his parents were all turned into blanks. He held Wang Fang's shoulders, gasping and murmuring, "It's done, we're out. But my head feels empty, as if I've lost something important." Wang Fang hugged him tightly, with tears still hanging on her face, but she laughed out loud, with a nasal voice, "Howren, you fool, don't scare me." Intuition said. The monster retreated, it shrank back, like a restrained temple ghost, and would not pursue it anymore. "Look, the stars outside are shining, and it feels like freedom." She wiped her face, her palms were still red and swollen, and blood oozed from the wound where she had poked her tentacle, but the fire in her eyes was not extinguished, and love was like a rope, pulling him forward. Chenyi was the last one to crawl out, still holding the broken piece of iron used to pry the iron plate in his hand. His face was covered with sweat and dust, and his rational head finally breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced at the entrance to the tunnel behind him, and now there was only a dark crack, with a faint blue light pulsating, like a sealed pulse. Logically, after the reversal talisman is activated, the monster's energy backfires on itself, and the seal locks the core. It retreats, and the tunnel is stable and will not collapse. But the aftermath. Howren, you have sacrificed too many memories, and your brain waves are disconnected, and there will be blank periods, like a computer restarting and losing files. Hold on, I will carry you away. He patted Howren on the back, his movements clumsy but sincere. The scientist in ordinary days was now like a big brother, and the friendship was forged stronger in the crisis. The three of them supported each other and staggered through the ruins of the amusement park. The moonlight shone on the rusty bumper cars and the tilted Ferris wheel. The facilities were all still. There was no longer the uncontrollable roar, and only the low hum of the wind blowing through the iron frame was left, like the sigh of an old temple door. A blank flashed through Howren's mind. He tried to recall Uncle Xiaoqi's face, but he only remembered those blue eyes and his last words, "Fear the collective, sacrifice to disperse." A flash occurred in his heart. Uncle's reminder saved us, but this blank is a scar of growth. We have to adapt. Chinny, Fong, are you okay? Didn't the monster come out? He asked, his voice still hoarse, trying to steady himself with the logic of an engineer, analyzing all this like repairing a broken circuit. Chinny walked and panted, analyzing it like he was giving a lecture. The aftermath is not small. The seal is temporarily stable, but the curse is deep-rooted. The monster uses fear as fuel. We smashed the core and reversed the trauma. After injecting it, it went dormant like a virus and retracted into the underground labyrinth. Science says that the magnetic field in this place is still chaotic, and hallucinations will occasionally pop out, but they will not explode. The shadows on the edge of the city. Hey, it will probably always be there, like an urban legend. Remind us not to be too curious. He paused and glanced at Howard. What about you? How much memory have you lost? What happened to your parents, remember? Don't bear it, friendship is about sharing this mess. His words were a little humorous, trying to lighten the atmosphere, just like when he complained about Howard's adventure addiction, but the worry in his eyes could not be hidden. The crisis made him change from doubting ghosts and gods to acknowledging the supernatural, and his rationality became more humane. Wang Fong squeezed into the middle, took Howard's arm, and comforted softly, Howard, don't listen to Chinyi's scaremongering. My intuition tells me that not everything you lost is the painful fragments. What is left behind is the warm one, our laughter, the stinky tofu in the night market, the feeling of you holding my hand. Remember? When we were dating 2 years ago, you said that the bravery of engineers is to repair broken wires. Now you have repaired a bigger one, monster. Let's go, we're alive. She leaned closer and touched his forehead, tears falling again, but this time she was happy. Get used to your new self, fool. The blank space is a space for new memories. Let's fill it in together. After we go out, I'll make a bowl of hot soup, my mother's secret recipe, to ward off the cold. Her intuition not only saved lives, but was also healing wounds. Love was like the incense in the temple, warm, lasting through the night. They finally climbed up the iron fence at the edge of the amusement park. The lights of the city were approaching, and the cries of night market vendors could be heard faintly, like reality calling. Howard took a deep breath, and his blank head slowly cleared up. He remembered Wang Fong's tears, Chinyi's electric shock device buzzing, and Xiao Qi's sacrifice like a wake-up call, awakening his selflessness. Thank you, guys. Without you, I would have been trapped. The price is worth it. The monster has retreated, but the shadow is over the city. I can feel it, like fog that cannot be dispersed. He smiled and tried to stand up straight. The engineer's logic came back, the seal was a temporary repair, and the aftermath must be monitored. Chinyi took out a small book from his pocket. It was stuffed by Uncle Xiao Qi before he left. The cover was dirty, like an old diary. Wait a minute, this is my uncle's thing. He stuffed it in when the afterimage of his soul touched me just now. It's said to be a secret. You'll see when it's revealed. He opened it and used the light of his mobile phone to see that the page was yellowed and the handwriting was crooked, like an ancestral temple inscription. The three of them squatted by the grass, the wind blew and the pages rustled. Wang Fong came closer and read aloud, in the 30th year of the Republic of China, when the amusement park was built, the maze of ancient tombs was excavated, and the black wax ritual awakened the underground resentful spirits. My ancestor was a tomb keeper, and I participated in it. I have been guilty for a lifetime. Later, the accident caused the facility to go out of control, and the collective fear of monsters took shape. The seal needs to be reversed by the white wax, but the price is to disperse the memory. Descendants of Xiao Qi, I hide the diary here, waiting for the destined person. The curse is temporarily sealed, and the shadow will remain forever. Stay away from the edge of the city, otherwise it will restart. Howard's heart sank as he listened, and warmth surged through his blank space. Uncle's secret is not a burden, but a trust. Uncle. He knew everything, sacrificed the queen, and the soul also prompted the reversal. Confirmed, the curse is temporarily sealed. We smashed the black wax root, injected the trauma to balance. But there is an eternal threat. The shadow of the city is like an invisible net, which may open at any time. Chinny closed the diary and nodded. Science plus tradition. The logic is clear. Uncle's diary is a map, and we are the heirs. Analysis of the aftermath. Monsters are dormant, and hallucinations will be small-scale, like urban ghost stories. Don't believe them all, but don't forget them all. He patted Howard on the shoulder. The price of growth is blank, but our friendship is strong. The three of us, like an iron triangle, can survive this. Wang Fang put away the diary and stuffed it into Howard's pocket. Intuition said, "This is a gift from Uncle, take it with you." Howard, adapt to it. The new self is stronger, less burden of pain, more of our shadow. Do you want to go to the night market? Celebrate being alive. I'll pay for the stinky tofu. She pulled the two of them up, and her laughter rang in the wind, trembling, but true. Howard nodded, his mind as blank as a blank sheet of paper, waiting for new drawings. Friendship lines were added to the engineering drawings. Wang Fang's smile was like a lamp, and Wang Fang's intuition was like a guide. The city lights are in front, and the shadows are low on the edge, like the wake of the old temple, always alert. They walked forward, their steps steady, friendship like a bridge, crossing the blank space, heading towards a new day, but the mist was faint, indicating that the story was not over. The lights of the night market were like strings of colorful lights, swaying towards them. The three of them stepped on the gravel road, their footsteps mixed with the hawking in the distance. The diary in Howard's pocket was heavy, as if his uncle's eyes were still staring at them. Wang Fang held his arm, and Chinny walked beside him, scanning the road with his mobile phone, occasionally saying, "This fog is really like a science fiction movie, don't let any more tentacles pop out." Howard smiled, his head was still buzzing, but Wang Fang's heat came over, making him feel that the night was not so cold. Without saying much, they went straight into the night market, ordered 3 bowls of stinky tofu and hot soup, and squatted at a roadside stall. The soup burned their mouths but warmed their hearts. The monster thing is like a nightmare, temporarily suppressed at the bottom of the diary. After a few months, the rhythm of the city returned. Howard stood at the edge of the construction site, with the blueprint in his hand spread out, and the sunlight shone on the steel bars, making it dazzling. He is now an engineer in a high-rise building in the city center, specializing in repairing old circuits. It sounds ordinary, but every time he does wiring, the blue light of the underground tunnel always flashes in his mind, reminding him not to be careless. The gaps in my memory are like missing corners of a puzzle. My parents' faces are blurred, and only vague echoes of the screams from the childhood amusement park accident remain. But the strange thing is that this blankness did not make him collapse, but instead felt like a burden had been lifted off him. Without the pain, he slept more deeply, and his dreams were mostly filled with Wang Fang's smile and Chinyi's complaints. "Howard, have you changed the circuit diagram again? What about the engineer's logic? Don't keep thinking about adding ceiling charms or something." Chinny came from behind, holding 2 cups of coffee in his hand, and handed them over with a smile and curse. He now teaches physics at a university. He occasionally mentions urban legends in class, which makes the students' eyes brighten, but he always adds scientific explanation, magnetic field interference plus psychological suggestion. After the crisis, the friendship between the three of them was as stable as a railroad track. They got together once a week to talk about work and avoid what happened that night. However, the diary was still in the drawer of Howard's house and became their secret. Howard took the coffee and took a sip, which was bitter yet sweet. "Hey, Chinny, don't you also like to analyze the aftermath? Last time you said that the magnetic field at the amusement park is still chaotic. This picture is just for precautions. What if there is a small hallucination coming out from the edge of the city?" He patted his friend's shoulder, and the trust in his eyes deepened. The sacrifice he made that night transformed him from a solo explorer into a partner who knew how to share the burden. Chinny shook his head, but did not refute. "Okay, you win. The government has sealed off the place. Iron fences and high-voltage power grids have been marked as a dangerous area. Who would believe the news that the old site was polluted? But at least the monster has stopped causing trouble. He paused and lowered his voice. My uncle's diary saved us, and his last wish is to protect the city. The three of us are considered heirs. Wang Fang jumped out of the car, carrying a lunch box, her hair swaying in the wind. She quit her old job and now opened a small coffee shop, specializing in her mother's secret hot soup. The name of the shop is Warm Light, which vaguely carries the shadow of that night. Her instincts are still there, and she always avoids fringe areas when opening a store, but business is booming. Young people love to hear her tell stories, of course, omitting the monster part and only telling anecdotes about adventures. Howren, Chani, it's time to eat. Mom's soup will keep away the cold. Don't stand around blowing the wind all the time. She squeezed into the middle and divided the boxes with skillful movements, just like at home. They have been dating for 2 years, which was already sweet, but became even more sticky after the crisis. She looked into Howren's eyes and said softly, "Does your head still hurt? Is the blank period over? My intuition tells me that you are more stable now, like a repaired circuit, there will be no short circuit." Howren nodded, took a piece of braised pork, and swallowed it warmly. "It doesn't hurt anymore, Fang. The lost memories are like deleting old files, and my head feels refreshed. Regarding my parents, I remember the outline. When they left, I promised to be brave. Now, I use the hands of an engineer to repair the city's disconnected lines, so I can make good on it." A flash occurred in his heart. Blank spaces are scars, but scars make people strong. When he sacrificed his childhood fears, smashed his heart core, and sealed the monster that night, he thought he would collapse, but he didn't expect to get this peace in exchange. Chani got closer and analyzed. Scientifically, memory loss is a backlash consequence, but you adapted quickly. The brainwaves stabilized, and the hallucinations did not cause trouble. After the amusement park was closed, official patrols were conducted, and there were no new incidents. Uncle's last wish is to protect the shadows. Let's contribute a little. I teach students to identify fake news, you build buildings, and Wang Fang's shop warms people's hearts. The three of them were sitting on a bench next to the construction site. The city was noisy around them, with rivers of traffic and tall buildings. Howren recalled that night, the tentacles in the tunnel, the out-of-control Ferris wheel, and Uncle Shao-Chi's blue eyes. Everything was like an old movie, blurry but profound. Do you know? That monster is not an enemy, but a mirror of fear. When I smashed it, I faced the blank space in my childhood and realized that bravery is not impulsive, but moving forward after sacrifice. My uncle's diary said that the shadow will last forever, like the fog on the edge of the city, reminding you not to forget your roots. But I no longer dominate. As long as we are alive, we win. Wang Fang leaned on his shoulder and nodded. I agree intuitively. In a crisis, I am scared to death, but when you are here, I can be ruthless. Love and friendship are like candles, lighting up the road. We have accepted Uncle Shao-Chi's entrustment to protect and prevent the curse from restarting. Chani took a sip of the soup and sighed with rare emotion. The rationalists admit that the combination of the supernatural and science is the only solution. Monsters use fear of the collective, and we use trauma to reverse it, and the balance is achieved. There are no new threats, and the city is stable. Uncle Dan's last words, fear the collective, sacrifice the scattered. It's like a wake-up call. Howren, you have grown the most, from a curious boy to a selfless repairman. It's worth it. He raised his glass, which was actually a soup bowl, and touched it. Here's to us, Iron Triangle. The shadow is low on the edge, and we build the light in the middle. Howren laughed out loud, and a new picture filled the blank space in his mind. Wang Fang's smile, Chani's analysis, and his uncle's diary were added to the blueprint as a guide. He stood up and dusted off the ashes. Let's go, Fang's shop is waiting. Let's get together in the evening and talk about the future, not about monsters, but about new stalls in the night market. They walked forward, walking briskly, and the city lights stretched their shadows, but this time, the shadows were not scary, like old friends. Wang Fang held his hand tightly, Chani complained about the weather, and the three of them blended into the crowd. The shadow of the amusement park always covers the edge, like the wake of an ancient temple, alert but not intrusive. Howard uses the logic of an engineer to contribute to society, repairing circuits and building bridges, and every stroke carries the courage of that knight. Sacrifice in exchange for inner strength, fear is no longer a shackles, but fuel, pushing them forward. Life is complete, there is no suspense, only warmth and eternity. Months passed, and Howard's days were like a pendulum, swinging steadily. He occasionally dreamed of the tunnel. When he woke up and touched Wang Fang's hair, he calmed down. Qin Yi's class has a more humanistic touch, and the customers in Wang Fang's shop are full of laughter. They silently guarded Uncle Xiaoqi's last wish, making anonymous donations to repair edge street lights and monitoring magnetic field reports. No new monsters, no hallucinatory chases, just everyday grit. Howard understands that growth is not about filling the void, but about embracing it and transforming it into light. The value of courage blooms after sacrifice, the shadows of the city remain forever, but their lights are brighter.